Welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper, and I'm gonna get a little bit serious. I'm gonna get a little bit raw. I'm gonna get a little bit real, because if you guys are not living like your life depends upon it, there's probably nothing I can do for you. There's no advice I can give you. If you can't take a look at the world around you and realize that perhaps now is a good time to be serious about some things like never before, I can't make that click for you. But for those of you who are out there and you're reading the writing on the wall, you realize that we are in a place worldwide like never before, that there are some real serious issues and agendas going on, and it's very easy, if we're living the status quo American dream lifestyle, where we don't own our cars, we're in constant, credit card debt, we don't own our houses, everyone's just constantly on the hamster wheel just to pay off interest. The families are completely separated, where dad's got to be at work, mom's got to be at work, kids got to be at school. You have these empty houses you don't own, all that stuff. You're barely scraping by. You're paycheck to paycheck, you're hand to mouth. It's hard to get a leg up. And a lot of the sacrifices that people could do to make their life easier are very difficult. And then on top of that, you reach things where, there's shortages of everything. I saw a sign today, there's a shortage of coins in this country. That's just to make cash much more difficult, and to make it much more easy to have everything be credit card, to have everything be digital. There's a reason all that's going on. But then you go to the grocery store and whatever is there, you have a hard time affording now. There's a lot of stuff going on, guys. The reason that I garden and grow plants is because I eat food. The reason I'm as serious about it as I am is because I've got Mama Pepper, Pinky Pepper, Red Pepper, Monster Truck the Pepper, Sweet Pepper, Buddy Pepper, Bell Pepper. Those are all ones under my care and my stewardship that I'm going to be the earthly provider for. So right now, a lot of people are getting into gardening, a lot of people are getting into food security, and gardening is one of the best food securities that I know. Even if you think about something, it's a lot easier for me to take a small bowl of seeds, just these little sprinkles with me wherever I go, than cans and cans and cans of, canned food. The guineas are acting up a little bit right now, but because I eat, I garden. Because I garden, I save seeds. A little bit ago, you could not walk into stores in some places in the land of the free and the home of the brave, right? Some places, some states, you couldn't walk into a store and buy seeds. They were considered non-essential. To me, if you give me a pea seed, which is what's here in my hand, a pea seed, you give me that, I can grow a pea plant. I can eat a lot of peas, and from planting that one, not only can I eat a whole bunch, but I can wind up with a whole bunch extra, like what you see in my hand right now. Next year I can grow even more. That is freedom, and that is a level of freedom that you're never gonna get buying a 55-cent can of peas at the store. You're not gonna get there. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about saving seeds. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the seriousness of it. I know a lot of people have been asking us lately too, if we're gonna open up any of our online shops and start selling the excess from our garden. We are, Lord willing, that's the plan, but I gotta build up a supply first. I gotta get some things going. I do have some stuff from last year, and one thing that I'm doing is I've got bins and bins and bins of seeds, but I'm getting some of my favorites and some of my most important stuff in now, that I'm gonna start a new bin with everything that came from 2020. And I'm gonna make sure to be working through my old seed, providing some new seeds for me and my family, and having that as part of what we're able to do too. So check this out. Recently I saved some seeds, I'm not even done harvesting, from 3 different kinds of peas. All of this is for some of my shell peas, some of my pod peas, the peas that I eat the whole pod. There is a bunch of them here. This is probably, this handful might represent what I planted this year. We ate a ton, we were overwhelmed by them. Some of them, they're completely phased out now, and others are kind of on their way out. But to wind up with this many seeds as my excess supply already, or my supply already from this year, is absolutely amazing. These are some of our purple pod King Tut peas, And I'm not done harvesting them, but these are the dried peas we'd be saving for seeds in the future to plant next year or even this fall. And then this is for some of the shell peas, the ones you're going to eat shelled, where you're not eating the whole pod. But this is absolutely heavy. Look at how deep this is. It reaches like this high in here, and that's solid. I'm actually drying them on a number of things, so they're not this thick. If I did this, guys, it would just mold, and I would lose it all. And then I do have already some of our kale, which is what's here. Just an insane amount already, and this is barely a fraction of what we have available. This is kale that we planted at the end of the winter, at the beginning of 2019. So it grew through 2019 into 2020. It's seeding now, and the flowers are pretty much done. They're starting to dry up, so I'm able to use that, and it's a huge blessing for our family. So one thing you're going to do is, if you garden, I would recommend saving your own seeds. Right behind me I have something you guys might recognize. This here is broccoli, and it's getting a little more kind of spread out than a lot of people would normally let their broccoli crowns get. I planted a broccoli seed over here. There's another one next to here earlier this year. Sometimes I plant a whole bunch. We eat a lot of it. It's still one of the ones that's relatively easy and cheap to find at the store. So I'm actually going to let this go to seed. The broccoli crowns are broccoli florets. Florets are the little undeveloped flowers that haven't opened yet. So soon they're going to open. They're going to be yellow. They're going to be pollinated by maybe by my honeybees, maybe by some hummingbirds or the bees around here, the butterflies, and they're going to go to seed. When I do that, I'll have a big crop of fresh seeds that I save myself from my own broccoli, and then I'll be able to plant hundreds and hundreds and hundreds just from this one broccoli plant. So that's one thing. If you guys got broccoli growing right now, maybe let one of them go to seed, or it could, harvest this big crown and leave one of these little guys and let that go to seed. Let that flower. Check it out. See the whole life cycle of the plant. A lot of things that we eat are kind of underdeveloped plants. There's something we're looking for in it that we kind of take out early, and they never reach their full potential. But if we let them, we have that next generation that we can use in our garden and in our lives, in our kitchens, at our dinner tables. This here is another good example. All this tall, spindly stuff around me, these little yellow flowers, are some flowers from the mustard greens we're growing. We enjoy mustard greens. We'll use them raw. We'll eat them cooked. But if we let them, they turn into these flowers, which make these long seed pods, which are going to be very similar to the kale seed pods. If I take one of them, you have this tiny little thing here, and inside here will be about 10 or a dozen little seeds. It's green right now. You wait till it turns brown, and then you just kind of crunch it up. And you can kind of blow, separating the wheat from the chaff, all the dried stuff from the actual seeds, and you'll wind up with some tiny little balls, much like you would with this kale here. And those will be your seeds to plant next year. Very easy to do. A lot of times I'll eat the perimeter leaves and I'll never chop the entire plant off, so I'll let it go to seed so that I have that security for the future and to be able to use, in my life for years to come. I've got a video I have planned coming up where I talk about kind of a hobby farm type idea, and I would say that some people would call what we do a hobby farm. To me, it's so much more than that. It's not even close to a hobby. It's a lifestyle. It's something that consumes our existence to a certain degree in the physical sense. But just like eating is part of our lifestyle, whatever else you choose, eating is involved in it. Maybe you're vegan, maybe you're raw food, maybe you're, a carnivore, maybe you're keto, maybe whatever you're going to be. Eating is going to be involved in your lifestyle. Because we eat, gardening is involved in our lifestyle, and because we garden, seed saving is too. This is a whole bunch of cilantro that went to seed. We like to succession sow our cilantro, so we kind of have a continual harvest of young ones, but there is probably thousands of little seeds here that we're going to be able to have. They get these nice white flowers, and then they turn into these little balls here, coriander. You can eat them too, and they're really pungent, a really nice flavor. There's a reason people use them and stuff. But all this is, years to come worth of cilantro we can grow too, because we let it get all big and crazy, flower, and go to seed. It's not that hard. The plants want to do it. And if you learn kind of how to interact with each one, or just leave them alone till they reach a maturity level, you'll be able to do that. Right now, all these plants are still alive and thriving. They're still putting out new flowers. They're still putting out new seeds. But once they get dried, I'll be able to grab these and kind of, again, crumple it up, all the balls. You can put on a plate or something, let them all roll to one side. The little round guys, the balls, those are the seeds. All the rest of it you can add to your compost. And if you do it where they grew, you'll wind up with some of those seeds escaping you, falling back to the ground, and they may come back on their own in the area you grew them the year before. Since we use so much organic fertilizer, and we're adding things like fish emulsion and comfrey tea, stinging nettle tea, rabbit manure to our beds anyway, I don't mind letting it grow in the same place for year after year. And by saving our own seeds and harvesting them, as I saw in the last one of the previous videos about the volunteer plants, they'll just come back on their own. It's what the plants want to do. They want that next generation. We just have to allow them to do so, and then kind of confiscate some of those seeds to put in our private stash so that we have them to share with others, to barter, to plant ourselves, or if we get enough volunteers, not even worry about planting them. Here's one too, guys. This is all in the same hugel mound, everything I've shown you guys so far, but we got these long, crazy, spindly plants. They are still flowering here out on the end. They're kind of a light purple, and then you get all these pods. Down at the bottom of here is actually radishes. This whole heaping mound of long, crazy stuff is radishes. But what I'm doing is I'm growing them for these. Inside here is probably going to be 2 or 3 little radish seeds. This variety happens to be the Shawo fruit radish we got from Baker Creek's rareseeds.com. If you grow it in winter, it's so sweet people use it as a fruit substitute. Now I wanted a fresh batch of seeds to start out this fall with, so I planted some later in the spring and just let them go to seed. And yeah, inside here they're still undeveloped or underdeveloped, but they're all coming in. I'll give you a closer look at this real quick so you can see what that looks like. But all this, you know, from each little radish down in the soil here somewhere, there it is, all these branches come out. They're flowering with these beautiful purple flowers here. There we go. And turning into all these little seed pods. Some radishes are actually grown for their seed pods, which people like to eat. I'm just trying to get a good supply of seeds to use in the future here. And absolutely fantastic. Love the fact we can do this. And again, with just a little bit of information, a little bit of know-how, we can have years and years. We only need to invest in these types of seeds once, and we can get years and years and years of harvest from them. So very excited about this. We have something similar going on here with our different salad greens. Some of these are just about to open up way up top here. These are going to be kind of fuzzy, almost like mini dandelions when they go off of this nice lettuce here. These guys are about to do about the same thing. And then in front here, I'm actually going to wind up with thousands of seeds for purple lady bok choy. We love harvesting them young as whole plants when we're able to. But one thing I did this year a lot was pick off just the mature leaves and let these guys come up. And again, they're making a very similar thing. A lot of these, like the different broccolis and the different salads, the kale, stuff like that, just makes these little pods. And inside, if it'll focus, that little pod, looks like there's going to be about 6 or 7 little seeds. So from one plant, I get a ton of these little pods. From one pod, I get a ton of little seeds. I can plant thousands and thousands of these, and I don't ever need to buy the seeds for purple lady bok choy again. I'm just letting them flower. The animals want to come pollinate them. They want to be here. They want to be beautiful. They want to brighten up my garden. And but with just a little bit of information, a little bit of education, a little bit of experience, I can have way more seeds than I'm ever going to need. And if we all start doing that, we're going to wind up with a much different world that we live in. This is another crazy area, guys. This whole thing that you see, actually what actually grows in this bed is just 2 trifoliate citrus trees, which is this one here and one behind it, and a couple of rhubarb plants. Everything else that is sprawling out of here like crazy and covering my path and all these flowers is just more radishes of a different kind that are going to seed. So I'm winding up with all these little seed pods here because each of these dainty, tiny little flowers is getting pollinated and making viable seeds. So I'm going to have you know, thousands and thousands of extra ones to use this fall. Here's where the Malabar spinach reseeded itself. So we've got tons of just these big green healthy leaves, which we're not going to be able to keep up with this summer. It reseeds itself for us, but I grew up quickly before it got tall. You can see the tallest ones are only about here, and it's time to pull the peas. We've got some more peas we can eat. And then peas, as I showed you guys those boxes earlier, if I take this, you know, inside this pod is a whole bunch of my peas I can use next year or this fall. So there's some of these are still eaters, some of these are just saving for seed, but that harvest can come out of here. We can start rolling with our second harvest, and I like getting multiple harvests out of one bed. The same thing happened over here. Just a little bit ago, this whole area was peas, but we've harvested them. Those peas I showed you at the beginning all got taken out, and now we're growing our Chinese red noodle beans as the next crop out of this area. And I think in between them I'm going to plant some squash too, maybe some yellow crookneck or the Desi squash, just a shorter quick summer squash, and then let these noodle beans cover this whole area that really just a little bit ago was completely covered with peas. And it looks like we still got some to get out of here. And that's one thing too with peas, if you're harvesting them, you may notice some of them taste woody. The ones that taste woody and are no longer tasty are the ones that are getting mature and you could save for seeds. So I'm gonna let these guys dry and then eventually be able, just like here, take them out and have all those little peas that I can plant this fall or next spring. If you followed me for a while, you know that I've done a lot of different things with carrots over the years too. This here, I just wired up a little bit ago, but all these are carrot flowers, and they're gonna make, each one of these little guys is gonna make hundreds and hundreds of carrot seeds. So what I did is I planted ones last year and I left this guy in. Back in Wisconsin, we used to let them overwinter in the garden, the ones we wanted to go to seed. The next spring, they'd shoot up and be the tallest plants in the spring, turning these big flowers, and then they'd provide us hundreds and hundreds of seeds just from one carrot. And we'd be able to use those then for the years to come. There's a way to force them to go to flower and seed in the first year too, but I just leave them in over the winter. And then here's going to be, you know, a couple thousand carrot seeds, just kind of from no real effort. I just didn't harvest the carrot, so it's going to be there doing its thing. You can see here is two different things. Number one, all these big white balls, those are onions that didn't do so well last year. We harvested the ones that were big, the smaller ones we left in. And of course, sometimes you want to have your biggest, strongest plants be the ones you're, you know, saving for seed. But all these are turning these little orbs of flowers. They're all going to provide a bunch of onion seeds. We'll have hundreds of those. And this kale, you can see some still is here flowering. So much like much like the broccoli. We're winding up all these things. These got like a dozen seeds in them. And I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of these going to seed. I've said it before that there's absolutely no way we would eat as healthy as we do if we weren't growing it ourselves. So for us to be able to do that right in our own garden, to wind up with, you know, tens of thousands of seeds, that's way more than we're going to need. And that bed fed us so much for so long. We would not buy that much kale at the store or the farmer's market because it's here, because it's so easy in our own garden. We're going to. You'll notice too here with this big dill head, okay, a lot of people pick those and they you know, use them in their pickles and things like that. But remember, those dill heads make the seeds. You guys can save those seeds. Some places even just sprinkle them back on the ground. When you harvest them, they'll come up the next spring and go from there. So as I kind of started off this video, guys, there are definite reasons that I recommend everyone garden and everyone grow right now. Moreover, there's reasons I would encourage every gardener to learn a little bit about saving seeds, especially the stuff you may really want. One cool thing too is if you're taking the best plants each year of each kind and you're letting those go to seed, the ones that are more drought tolerant, more water tolerant, more heat tolerant, more whatever it may be, the ones that are best suited to your area are the ones that are going to be doing a good job. So if you save the seeds from that and plant that next year, you're starting off with the best possible seeds you could. And then if you keep doing that year after year, you'll actually develop, you know, your own specific seeds that do best in your growing zone with your climate, your temperatures, that type of stuff. When you're storing seeds, make sure they get 100% completely dried first, or they're gonna mold on you. 3 main things can damage a seed, as far as I know, once you get them started, in saving. And that's gonna be sunlight, excessive heat, and moisture. So if you can keep them dry, keep them cool, and keep them in a dark spot, they're gonna be the best. There's ones like cucumbers, you can keep those seeds for up to a decade. Other ones don't have as long as a shelf life. But start doing your research now. When you can hop on the internet or hop on your phone and just take a peek at stuff. Start watching your plants in the garden. Just experiment. Let one of your, green bean plants go. Find the one that's doing the best, let it go. And let it run its life cycle. And then at the end of the season, when you got a bunch of dry pods, open them up. Take a look at your little beans in there and save those for the next year and try planting them the next year. And then do the same thing. Just let it become part of your lifestyle. Because it makes sense, and because you're going to want to eat, you're going to want to feed your family, and seeds to me are absolutely essential, regardless of what any government or municipality says. They're essential. So I'm going to take that into my own hands, because when there's a difference of opinion, or I say I need them, somebody else says I don't have to ask them for permission, because I've already got my own. Hopefully that helps. I'll talk to you guys later. Be blessed. Papa out.